So I'll be a host this evening, and I'm glad to be here uh, uh, this evening with you. So I'll be talking about, I'll give a small introduction about uh, conversations with Esther. I'll be sharing my screen here. This is Esther, Conversations with Esther. And as you can see, about Conversations with Esther. Conversations with Esther is an impact-driven professional platform that informs, educates, builds mindsets on matters work, organizational culture, and holistic wellness. We ignite ethical and authentic leadership, promoting best practice within the industries. So Conversation with Esther equips the workplace with relevant legal, human source, and holistic wellness skills through capacity building or training, motivational talks, end-to-end HR consultancy support, and mentorship programs. Guided by our three values, integrity, excellence, and impact, we envision a workplace transformed by professional conversations, respectable relationships, and intentional leadership. So we have the 7 pillars that are of wellness that guide our operations. We have the physical, mental, financial, social, spiritual, environmental, and intellectual. Based on our calendar of activities for the year 2025, we had a nature walk last month. This Saturday, 26th of April, we have a team building activity and networking event that will be held at Children's Park, Traffic Park, just at the roundabout of Nairobi, University Way and Uhuru Park on your way to State House or even Serena. So we'll be there, and make sure that you come and network with the professionals in various fields. Then, as you can see the calendar, we have other more activities coming up in May, June, July, and up to November. So this evening, we also have a conference that is coming up, Navigating Employment and Labor Relations in Kenya. We have a conference that is coming up in June from 4th to 6th at Sawela Hotel in Naivasha. So make a point of booking your seat for this conference, and so that you can be able to understand and learn from legal professionals, HR professionals, health and safety professionals as well, business leaders and business owners. It will be a 3-day conference where people will be able to interact with Kenya's top employment and labor relations court judges, CEOs, and legal professionals. So make sure that in case of any inquiries, you contact the number that's on your screen. So this evening we'll be talking about the Employment Act and its application at the workplace. So today's, you can see that today is an open mic session for HR professionals on. Today we don't just need to talk to HR professionals. We want to talk to anyone that is in the employment space and has issues that are challenging them in relation to their workplace. So feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to unmute your mic, and then let's talk. So our speaker today, our facilitator today is none other than a global HR expert and certified professional mediator, Mr. Paul Ngugi, who is also the chair INGO Roundtable. So without much ado, I'll be welcoming our facilitator to lead the conversations. Thank you so much, Paul. Karibu-san.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay. I just want to test the mic. I hope I can clear. Just maybe you can indicate, Jay, whether you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I'm hiding under the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro, and I think there's an elephant trying to chase me. I don't think it will chase me because I'm protected by the law, and in particular the Employment Act 2007. I think today it's more of it's not a presentation. It's about what actually Jay has mentioned peer-to-peer learning. And because this is actually a cornerstone of our employment act, and what actually give us actually the guide. It's like actually our compass on us as HR professionals and just anybody, because the laws actually are made for all of us to explore. So, and this is actually a build-up to a fantastic conference which will be in June. I think June has talked about, Jay has talked about, it's going to be from the 4th to the 7th of June, 2025. And this is a fantastic opportunity for people to come and engage with the top judges and seasoned legal minds and top also HR practitioners. So today actually is more of an engagement for us to ask questions, make comments, learn from each other, and not run any kind of presentation. And therefore we have an open mic for people to think about it. And I'll just talk about the session. So actually this session is a build up to navigating the Employment Act and Labor Relations conference, which will be taking place from the 4th to the 6th of June in Naivasha. And this is an opportunity for professionals to come ready to share the expertise. But in particular, there will be also legal minds and the judges, top judges, who will actually come and actually unpack the whole of this particular topic. So we actually gathered here today to explore how Employment Act, and in particular which actually applies to real life situation and the workplace, because it's actually something which affects all of us from the time actually you join college and you're studying human resources, from the time actually you join an employment, whether you're an intern, you actually exploring this particular act. So the Employment Act 2007 actually is the main legislation actually which governs the employment relationship in Kenya. So quite important for us actually to familiarize ourselves during that part. And actually it's an act of parliament which actually provides for regulation of employment of persons and also protection of rights and duties of employers. So they're actually duties of employers and also employees, and for connected purposes. And you hear some people talking about, did you follow the process? Did you study the framework? Do you understand even the whole of the act? And there are very many sections in this particular act. So you cannot say that, for instance, I have studied all of them. In most cases, actually, is actually the application. So I think I'll start by just asking a question. And this is a moment for us even just to unmute, and there's no wrong or right answers. Remember, this actually is a build-up for a big conference which is happening in June. And this is also an opportunity for us even just to learn from each other. So just unmute and tell us something. So for instance, when you hear the Employment Act, what comes to mind first? When you hear about the Employment Act, what comes to mind? And this is actually an opportunity for us to learn. Yeah. Feel free to unmute and just say something. Shoot. Just shoot. What comes to mind when you hear about Employment Act? Who has the first? Any answer comes to mind. Employment Act. What comes to mind when you hear about it? You hear sometimes lawyers, human professionals talking about Employment Act. You may have heard it even from politicians, from other professionals talking about the Employment Act. What just comes to mind without necessarily overthinking? What comes to mind immediately when you hear that? Feel free to unmute. Remember, this is an open mic. Your opportunity for us now to share is peer-to-peer learning. So there's no expert today. It's actually for us to ask questions, make comments, and learn from each other. And this actually helps even in terms of the build-up to the next one. And I can think there's somebody who has actually unmuted. Is that Techno? Is somebody written Techno? Go for it.
Yes, this is Elizabeth. So what comes to mind when I hear Employment Act is the laws that govern the HR office in a workplace.
Thank you. Wonderful. So it's actually the law which governs employment at the workplace. I think that's wonderful from Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Can we hear more people making contributions? I'm facilitating. I'm also learning. Learning never ends.
We have the
Rispa, go for it.
Yes, thank you. So as for me, it's more of rules and regulations.
that bind the employees in terms of, no, not employees exactly, but the organization. It's like it's a must follow rules and regulations. My thoughts.
RISPAs
What is-
actually
yeah.
angle regulations. RISPA. Jay, you perhaps you could look out for the people who are want to say.
We have the law in HR. The law in HR has something to say.
Go for it. And you can introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Good
Good evening,
afternoon.
actually. All those answers are correct, but I think one thing they are missing out is the rules and regulation that govern the employer-employee relationship. So, to add on what they are saying, the most important aspect of the act is that it governs the employer-employee relationship.
Mhm. Wow. So you noticed actually the law in HR has added something interesting, and I'm sure he has a name he can actually tell us. Is that there's also the angle of the relationship, not just the regulations and the law. It's also actually. Thank you so much.
We have Lucy Marangu. Maybe Lucy might not be aware that she's unmuted.
There's a hand from PK.
PK, you can unmute and say.
Okay, I can see still PK still has a hand up. PK, please feel free to unmute and speak. It's your opportunity. You have the platform. Okay. Maybe as we're waiting for PK to join us. Okay, I have another question. When was this act become operational? I know, of course, when you talk about 2007, that's when it was it was given the assent, and definitely the same year, it was actually also published in the Kenya Gazette. I don't know whether anybody would remember when it became operational, because that should be the process. One, there's an assent, and then it actually has to be published in the Kenya Gazette, and later on now it also becomes operational. And that's actually the date now it became applicable. Anyone can remember? Okay.
Hi, Paul.
Go for it, PK.
Yes, sorry, I was unable to unmute. So allow me to react to the first question that you had put across. What would we think about the Employment Act? So all those answers, I agree with them, but I would like to add the aspect that this law is enacted by an act of parliament.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, good. PK, do you remember when it was an act, when it became operational?
I would say maybe 2007.
Oh, fantastic. It actually was published in November 9th, 2007. And then it was directed that it becomes operational from June 2008. Fantastic. And it's actually a very robust act of parliament. I think that was a very good addition. Another very tricky question here now. How many sections do you have in the Employment Act 2007? It's a time for learning. Learning, comments.
90 sections.
How many?
90.
90 sections, I'm also learning. The law in HR has talked about 90. Any other question? Any other comments about how many sections?
Can I try?
Yeah, go for it. PK, what's your real name, PK?
Pauline Karanja.
Oh, okay.
I think there are five sections.
5 sections from Pauline Karanja. So we are learning, and this is actually a very interesting conversation that we'll also have in Naivasha when we come there. It's actually a build up to that. And let's this particular comments and answers and the questions keep on coming. Hi, Sola, from Narok.
Good evening. Are they 93?
Okay, 93. As we are doing that, I want somebody to go and check, and then we can get the real answers. We have 93, we have 90, and we have 5 sections. Good time for us to keep on familiarizing. Anybody with a different answer? "24 sections" from Lillian Weni. Wow, this is very varying. I want to challenge somebody to go and check, and then by the time we end this particular session today, because it's peer-to-peer learning, then you can actually give us the right one. Someone, and then you can actually post it. Okay, and those are many. Remember 93, 90, 5. Somebody actually said there are 5 acts. So somebody can tell us the acts and then the sections. So I think by the end of it all, I think, and Jay will be looking at the chat box, can let us know exactly how many they are. I have an interesting question in terms of learning. Which HR policies, and all of us sometimes we look at HR policies, and there are many HR policies sometimes, some of them on safeguarding and all that. What HR policies in your workplace have been directly shaped by the Employment Act? When you look at the HR policies in your organization, which one would you say we see this one being embedded in the Act of Parliament? We see this one actually being explored by the Employment Act. Can we share what are those particular policies in our organization that we see, we explore, we interact with? Sometimes we train, sometimes we go through onboarding, and then we say these particular HR policies are shaped by the Employment Act. And when even you read the Employment Act, you actually see those particular policies. Some of them may be some clauses, maybe in the HR manual, but which one in particular? And some of these are the key areas, especially of the Employment Act. And remember, later on, actually, the labor relations, there's actually the whole thing actually in the court already. And that's why even we're going to have top judges actually from that particular act coming to unpack it in Naivasha. Could we share what are those particular policies and the areas and the sections that we see in our human resource, in our workplace, as we interact every day, either during onboarding or when sometimes people are called for certain meetings and you're like, I think this is actually in the Employment Act. And it's actually on the basis of this, the Employment Act 2007 actually was enacted to give guidance, and also to ensure that there's actually a good relationship between the employer and the employee. Open mic, let's have a conversation. Yeah. Naisola, is that a new hand? Yeah, cool, it's down. Yeah, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. What are those policies that you see which have been shaped? And some of us who have actually done human resource, we look at that one all the time. Jay, you can help me to look at those particular comments on the chat box, but I think it's very important also you just unmute and just talk. This is your opportunity. Visibility is everything. Even tell us what you do. This is an opportunity for us to know who you are, what you do. Every time there's an opportunity, please always use it. Introduce yourself, what you do, and perhaps if you can, which organization, if you have to. Go for it. I think I had somebody who had unmuted.
Yeah, my name is Nadupoi.
Nadupoi.
Yeah, Nadupoi from Narok. I'm an HR practitioner in Narok County Executive. So something that I can say applies in the human resource policy is the employment contract itself, from the appointment letter and the details that are that the employee is supposed to be told while we are making the contract of employment, what you're supposed to know about your employment, the duration, the terms of service, your salary, the hours you're working. Yeah, those ones, they're in the Employment Act and they're in the policies.
Thank you so much, Nadupoi, from Narok County. Yeah, I think those are very good contributions that you have made. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's have more views. Let's have a conversation. Let's learn from each other. It's peer-to-peer learning. Use the mic is your opportunity. Be visible. We've heard from Narok County, from Nadupoi, what's happening in Narok, what's happening elsewhere, wherever you are, whether you're in college. There also actually could be some people already who are in college here, whether you're doing internship, you are at workplace, in terms of what do you see in terms of the policies and the sections that you interact with, that actually you can say, this actually relates to the Employment Act. And for those who are joining us now, it's all about peer-to-peer learning. It's about application of the Employment Act 2007 and actually how it applies in the workplace in our conversations. We've had conversations about when it was started. We've talked about the sections. We've talked about the meaning. And we have actually talked about it's actually an act of parliament. And therefore, we are guided by law. Yeah. Let's go. How does it apply? Which particular policies and sections do you see every day that you can say this actually points to the Employment Act? And even our legislators, because actually it was brought to them, had a debate about these particular areas. Let's go for it. Jay, do you want to help me to look at the chat box? Or muting? Go for it.
I'm looking at the chat box.
Yeah.
We have performance management.
I think there's someone who wants to.
We have discrimination and harassment, and then we have leave management. Vicky, I think, had unmuted to speak.
Yeah, and tax and discrimination and harassment, wages and remuneration, leave, termination, and dismissal.
Yeah, it is about dismissal, which are quite important. I'm sure there are those particular processes and the procedures that we see, and we see people being subjected to. Could be conversations about the disciplinary process, terminations. I think that has been talked about. Let's get more from what we hear. I can see something from Millicent to everyone.
Prohibition of forced labor.
There is something.
Forced labor.
Prohibition of forced labor.
I'm unable to. I can't see the sign for putting up my hand.
You go to the. If you want to put up your hand, you go to the React section. There's a section on your screen which is written React, and then when you go to somewhere, raised hand. So anybody who wants to just do that. And I think you're saying something. Is that Vicky? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd already contributed. I was asking about prohibition of forced labor and also employee rights.
Cool. Yeah, rightly for. Yeah, thank you. Let's go ahead. It's our moment. I'm sure even when you look at, I think, is it Jan Ross? Duncan, you want to say something? I think you've unmuted. Go for it.
You covered on the process of disciplinary process, procedure to include the hearing. How many days should we give? Are they 14 days the way you have been used casual-wise, casually, or they are less than that? Thank you.
Very good. Because, that's a very important thing that you have addressed, and it's an important conversation that we're having today, and definitely also a guide to June, when will be that particular conference on the process and also the timeline and the duration. and especially when you're supposed to appear in the disciplinary action. And I'm sure there are people also in this particular room today here can also offer answers here. And they have, of course, been involved in these particular processes. So I think you're also bringing in some questions. Let's bring some questions. Let's also bring in some answers. It's an open conversation, an open mic for us to learn from each other. Thank you, Jen Rose. I think I saw Lucy Marango typing. Do you want to say something, Lucy? Oh, no, Wycliffe. I think Wycliffe, you want to say something. I think I've seen your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Wycliffe Kibagendi from a consultancy firm called Rubili. I just want to also add on the policy part. So we have termination and the redundancy policy. And you can greatly borrow from Section 35, Section 40, and Section 44 of Employment Act. Then equally, you can talk about working hours, overtime policy. That is, you can greatly borrow from Section 27 and Section 31 on working hours and rest periods. Then we have leave policy, which is I rated on Section 28 to 35. Then we can equally talk also when you are doing recruitment and selection policy. Under Section 5 of the Employment Act, clearly states all the recruitment must be based on merit, fairness, and transparency. So basically, I think all the HR policies, you have to refer to the Employment Act. For instance, also, we can talk about salary and wages policy. Then you can refer Section 18 and 19 regarding payment. And then we can talk about disciplinary and grievances policy. Maybe we can refer to Section 41 on a fair hearing before dismissal. Maybe last but not least, maybe we can talk about health and safety. Or maybe you can refer to Section 30 of the Act, though that one you also put from the wage. Yeah, that is my contribution.
Thank you. I think I forgot something very important here. I would like us now to go to our React section so that maybe we can react in terms of a clap, an applause, a jubilation for all the people actually who are making a contribution. I think it's a very good way of motivating people to speak. So let's just go to the React section and we put a clap, a jubilation, a sign of love, a sign of jubilation there to give our jubilation to the speaker, Wycliffe. Thank you so much, Wycliffe, for that. And the conversation continues in terms of what policies and what particular sections. I have another question here, which is very important. Remember, actually, we've started talking so much about the sections and the policies and the areas in human resources which actually are deeply embedded in the Employment Act. And quite a number of things actually have come up. I think the other question that I have for you is that, are there certain areas that you think have been very difficult? And I'm sure the good thing about it also, we are recording this because in subsequent sessions now we'll be talking about what have been able to gather from these particular platforms, which actually we can address in terms of the solutions and the answers. And the question I have in terms of looking at the Employment Act, because we have practiced, we have interacted perhaps with this particular act. We've heard people talking about it in corridors. What are some of the areas that you think are very difficult to interpret? That sometimes you find that people have to go to court. They have to look for mediators. They have to look for arbitrators to guide them. So what are these particular areas which have been very, very difficult to interpret that you see in the Employment Act going forward? Peer-to-peer learning, open mic. Let's have a conversation. What are those particular areas which are challenging to interpret as a HR professionals, as a line manager, as a student, as a person who is working in a different section in the organization? You work in the county government, you're working in the public sector, private sector, NGO sector. You're a student and there's a lecturer who is talking about and you're like, what? This is actually not making sense. I think we can have those particular areas being discussed today, and anybody from this particular room here can actually respond proactively Yes. Let's look at the mic. I think there's someone who wants to speak. Who is that? This is your opportunity. Who is that? Is there somebody on mic and mute?
Yoki, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes.
Okay, so for my case, I could say it's mostly terminations, whereby people, as a HR, you're supposed to terminate a person with the right procedure at the right manner. And you'll find out that people are not terminated in the right procedure. So you'll find out that they go to court to fight for their rights in terms of final dues. Some employers don't pay them. In terms of their leave days, some employer don't pay them. And also, since you're firing someone, you're supposed to pay them, a month prior to, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Njoki. I think some of the gray areas or areas which are very difficult to interpret, I think you've pointed out, and we find employers being taken to court, or we have appeal sections even in organization because people are not actually not following the process. And one of the key areas I think Njoki have mentioned is especially the area of termination of contracts. Thank you so much, Njoki, I think, for that. Yeah. Let's contribute. Peer-to-peer learning, open mic, and this is an interesting conversation today. Quite an opportunity for us to share our views. What are those particular areas that we find are very difficult for us to interpret when you look at the Employment Act 2007? Jay, I think you can help me to look at, in case there could be a hand. If you want to talk, please, you can actually just unmute and talk, or you can actually go to the React section, and there's actually a section on, there's a place where you can actually raise your hand, and we'll give
We have Wycliffe as a hand raised as well. But just before that, we can have Milson says that my difficult areas in HR practicing is determining the minimum wage for positions in cities, county, etc. So that is also a concern that maybe by the end of this talk we should have handled. So we can have Wycliffe go.
Thank you so much, Jay. The part that I find it difficulty when it comes to change of terms of employment. For instance, maybe you want to change from permanent to fixed term, or from somebody who has been working for some time on a casual basis, now changing it to either fixed or a permanent contract. Found it to be a bit tricky, so maybe an explanation on the same will help.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we forgot to do, before we go to Naisola, I think we forgot to do something on our React. Let's just react by just either jubilation, just to encourage our wonderful speakers. It's peer-to-peer learning. I'm very excited with the energy so far in the room. Noisol, I think the mic is yours now.
The lack of clarity as far as data protection is concerned, privacy issues for employees, that's not handled in the Employment Act. So we have to rely on the Data Protection Act instead. I wish it was clear in the Employment Act to protect us as employees.
Yeah, and I think, Naisala, you've pointed out to another question that I think I'll ask about maybe since that particular time. Times have changed. They are emerging trends, and there could be some areas actually which are missing in the Employment Act, which sometimes are always thrown out for people actually to interpret on themselves going forward. Yeah. So data protection is something which actually came out there, and there's a whole area of data protection, and they sit side by side with the Employment Act in Kenya, and actually indeed globally, it's something actually which was being picked, and yet at the same time, HR professionals and managers and people from all walks of life are supposed to look at it and interpret. Not easy, and sometimes actually it needs legal minds, it actually needs professionals to come actually and interpret it. And these are very important actually areas for any kind of workshopping and onboarding employees. Yeah, so thank you so much for that. I think there was another hand. There's somebody actually who has actually had raised his or her hand up. Go for it, please. I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, we have Faraja who said that another gray area in the Employment Act is area around sexual harassment and evidence around that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to just throw a question here about, because it's an important area in day-to-day. How many, do you know, what do you know about maybe sexual harassment and what is required of organizations? Sexual harassment. Because this is very important, because it can affect us from time to time. And nowadays it actually affects all the gender, sexual harassment. Is there a particular law that we know which applies when it comes to sexual harassment? Is there somewhere actually it has been quoted about what organizations need to know? Because that's an important area that, and sometimes we hear people say, I didn't know. Or sometimes it can be normalized if you're not careful. What do we know about sexual harassment in terms of the policies, the framework, and the procedures in our organizations and in our workplace? Because it's actually applied. And it's actually an important area for us to understand. Peer-to-peer learning, open mic. Please unmute and share your views about that important conversation about even sexual harassment at the workplace. What do you know? What views can you give in this particular conversation? Please unmute, open conversation, open mic. Go for it. It's an incentive of a reaction for us to clap for you, to celebrate you today on the 23rd of April. Please unmute. Let's get it from you. No wrong and right answers. Today is a peer-to-peer learning. We are looking at some of the areas sometimes also which are gray and they are vague. Yeah, somebody was unmuted. Then Ross, you want to talk? Go for it.
Mr. Paul, it is actually a legal requirement for every organization to have a sexual harassment policy. And you make sure everyone signs, every employee reads, understands, and signs to have understood and to have been made aware. But the issue here, something critical is, as the HR or as the management, determining that or being convinced that it was really a sexual harassment, it is a long journey. Before you convince the judge, you convince the board, or name them, that it was really a sexual harassment, you'll have to go a long way, because even touching someone, it becomes a sexual harassment. Huyo mtu atasema, no, I was just passing by, he touched me. And actually could be it was not intentional, but the way it is put, huyo mtu anaenda anashinda hiyo case. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the section and just give a reaction to Jen Rose. Thank you so much for your fantastic contributions. Let's go and react to her. This is very good. Our reaction, mine is celebration. Let's show our love to. Yes, good. Thank you. Thank you, Jen Rose. Let's get some more views on sexual harassment. I think that's a very important area. She's talked about how sometimes it's difficult in terms of the interpretation. Other views, I think also she has also mentioned that every organization needs to have a sexual harassment policy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Paul?
Pauline Karanja, go for it.
Yes, my name is Pauline Karanja. I work at NCBA Bank as a HR business partner. And I would like to react on the aspect of the sexual harassment. So the act stipulates or is able to define what sexual harassment is. That is, it can be physical, it can be verbal. So the act is very clear on that. And also it stipulates the obligations of the employer in terms of the employer should have a clear policy in place for the sexual harassment. It also states that there's supposed to be reporting mechanisms in case sexual harassment occurs. So the policy is very clear, so that is a plus on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Pauline, I think we need just to clap for you. I want to start by showing my love to you. Show your love, show your claps for the wonderful contributions from Pauline Karanja. She's mentioned that she's in human resource working for NCBA. Let's also clarify to know who we are. Anytime that you have an opportunity, it's a time for networking. It's an opportunity for you also to make a contribution. It's also an opportunity for you to shine. Let's shine today. Let's shine today. Let's have some more views when it goes. What exactly do you know about? We've talked about this, a policy. We have also informed that it actually stipulates what actually it means in terms of the sexual harassment policy. And this could be some of the areas that actually inspectors come to see when they come at the workplace. What else do you think you know about sexual harassment policy? It's a key area, definitely. And then we could go to something else. Anybody who wants to have some closing remarks on that particular important area?
Yeah, maybe I can also try, Mr. Ngugi. My name is Faraja. I am in HR and also practicing in safeguarding. I agree with what PK and Jane Rose have said about importance of having the SARE policy. Maybe just to throw a spanner in the works that about the new emerging trend of fraternization and the contradiction with the new ruling about how we need to respect the relationship between the staff in the office, not getting into their business in terms of relationships. I think this is really complicating the whole issue around what we are discussing right now, and it's becoming really complicated for us as HRs. I don't know what we can share on that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and of course, I think the more we have these conversations, the better. The more actually, like you say, we point out some of the emerging trends, the better. Like for instance, in case you look at the whole areas of safeguarding, and this is actually something which is well articulated, especially in the NGO sector, especially looking at some of the challenges that have been happening before. So actually it brings into the fore the areas of educating each other and learning from each other. And with conversation with Esther, this is something that actually we picked up in terms of for instance, the trends and to know what are some of the areas that we need perhaps even to prioritize. So yes, safeguarding is important. And of course, even bring to the fore, even about, are we even allowed to even to employ children? So that's a key area. And what is the true meaning actually of a child? What particular age? Because this is quite important. And different jurisdiction also have different ways of defining who actually is a child. Yeah, I think that's important. I think I've seen, oh, cool, thanks. I don't know, I think I've seen Lona Memoy. Yeah, thank you so much, Faraj. I think that's a key area. Definitely, when you even look at, I've seen something from James Mushiri. Do you want to unmute and just verbalize that? James Mushiri, go for it. James Mushiri, you could unmute. This is your opportunity to unmute. There's something that you have mentioned there. Are you able to say something? James Mushiri?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Go for it.
Okay, my concern actually is about these employers who deduct employees' salaries, but on the pretext that there is no money to honor those deductions, they just don't pay. So you'll find that employees have no way of trying to make sure that this money is limited where it's supposed to be limited because of fear of the repercussions which may come after that. So how can you deal with such employers? Because I know there are many.
Fantastic. I think that's a question. I think which has been thrown to us by James Mushiri. I just want to look in the room to get somebody to respond to one or two people. I think that's a really good question. It's an open mic. It's peer-to-peer learning. Nadupoi, do you want to make a response? I think I've seen your hand up. Or Wycliffe, anybody can
I think I can try go for that with that.
Go for it.
Now, we have labor offices, I think, from the county level, sub-county level upwards. So in case now, I've had these cases and I've encountered much of this where you'll find that someone is, they're being deducted the statutory deductions, NHIF, now which is now called SHA, NSSF. So first point, what you need to do, you need to ensure that you get a statement from the specific organization or specific parastatal that the deduction should be paid to. For example, if it's NSSF, you get a statement from NSSF. Once you get this statement from NSSF, you can now engage a labor office so that they can be able to help. Alternatively, you can ask the employer yourself, but if you feel that you'll be intimidated, now you can do this through a labor office. I've had some that even do not pay, deduct and still do not pay the pay to KRA. So having someone maybe now, it's an issue of compliance. So as an employer may face some charges for that, for just deducting and not remitting. So contracting a labor office will be the best way for you to be able to handle this, so that the labor office can make a follow-up to ensure that the company is compliant in terms of the regulatory standards and the statutories.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jay, for your response. Today is a peer-to-peer learning. It's an opportunity for us just to take the mic and share our experiences, share our stories going forward. So thank you so much. I think we need to just to react to Jay and Faraja and also James Mushiri. Just go to the React section and just put your love there for the wonderful people who have made a contribution. So it's your opportunity. Please share your stories, share your views about the Employment Act 2007. And today is an open conversation. Today you have the mic. Today you have the platform. Give your views, give your responses. Let's teach each other. Thank you so much for that. I just also want just to move forward and perhaps the question that, I think James Mushiri, you okay with that? I just want to see. Oh, cool! I've seen your hand there. I just want to see whether in the chat we have any other question there or any comments. I just want to look for Jay in case we have anything there or anybody who was unmuted. And also I'm looking for guidance from Jay in terms of our time. And as I think Jay is looking at that, I have an interesting comment and question here. Over time, we have been exploring this particular Act of Parliament from 2007. There could be some emerging trends, either regionally, nationally, and also globally, which sometimes we struggle to see where they are. Which are some of the areas that you look around and you think that has not been addressed by the Act? They have been emerging for some time, and sometimes what organizations even do, they come with policies, they come up with the best, they even decide to benchmark. They decide to come with SOPs, operating procedures, so that actually they can guide the process of the workplace. They may be guiding, and it's not actually everything which is in the law. It's not everything which is always actually embedded in the law. Normally, the Act of Parliament normally guides. But there could be some areas which are emerging at the workplace, which you think are challenges, but they have not yet been addressed. And perhaps you could actually share your story, your views, and how you've been able to navigate through that. This is your opportunity. Open mic, an opportunity for us to share our stories and views and peer-to-peer learning. Thank you. Jay, maybe you can help me to look at whether there's something in the charts. Any areas that you think have not been addressed?
Now, there's on the side we have Ashley who's talking about when an employee resigns on probation and gives a day notice. Do we consider a 7 days notice? Do we consider public holidays, or is it strictly working days? Will you go for that?
Yeah, maybe we can get somebody from the room to respond in terms of learning from each other. From maybe Jay, you can read it again, and then people can hear, and then someone can respond.
When an employee resigns on while on probation, and they give 7 days notice, do we consider public holidays, or is it strictly working days?
Fantastic. Please, let's get someone to respond to that. There is an incentive for us to learn from each other on what you have done as a professional. I'm looking at the people who are here, human resource professionals, managers, to respond to that particular question from Ashley, whether we consider public holidays, whether there's some in the event of a resignation.
Maybe I can take up that.
Go for it, Jay.
Now, when it comes to companies, each company has its own policies. Now, in most cases, when talking about resignation and serving notice on whether we consider continuous days or whether we consider strictly working days, will solely depend on the policy. Now, what happens when people go for leave in your organization? I've worked in organizations where when you go, where especially I was in industrial area, I worked in industrial area for about 8 years. And when I was in this company, when you go for leave, you're going for leave for floor staff, staff that work in the for unionized staff. We used to go for leave, and they will count continuous days because now we will work up to weekends. And for the management staff, they'll only count up to Saturday. So based on what the policy talks about leave days, it should as well apply on notice period. So when your leave days is continuous days, then the notice period will mean the same. But when your leave days is maybe strictly working days, then it will apply the same for you when you serving notice. So she's given an example of, like, for instance, the Easter period. If the Easter period was part of, if someone was on leave and but now you don't count the holidays, you only count the working days at this point. So a public holiday should not be counted during leave and should not be counted when serving notice.
Oh, fantastic. I hope Ashley is okay with that. And let's have as many people as possible also helping to respond to some of those questions on peer-to-peer learning. It's a day to take the mic and share your story and also your views and ask questions to the panel here. And there's something which is coming here from Joram in terms of my brief. Joram, do you want to unmute and perhaps just take the mic and talk about the issues that you've put them on the chat? Joram? Joram, are you around? Okay. Maybe I can just read. My brief insights on sexual harassment. A sexual harassment policy sets clear standards to prevent and address harassment in workplace or institutions. And actually, he's further talked about the key elements, about definitions, the examples, There's also reporting mechanisms. There's also the investigation protocols. There's also the disciplinary measures, especially after investigation. So it should be after the investigations that we should have a disciplinary process. There's also actually training and awareness because people can say we didn't know. There's no policy, which actually needs to start right from onboarding. And also it needs to be done specifically almost throughout the year. Human professionals should not wait until there's an issue. Training and cascading should actually be ongoing throughout. At every opportunity, human resource professionals and managers needs actually to educate their people and actually to spread their awareness. Non-retaliation assurances, normally actually there's a procedure on that so that the perpetrators actually do not retaliate. Thank you so much, Joram, for that. I can see apologies, mic is locked. I had also seen something in terms of some of the areas which are not addressed in the in the current Employment Act. I've seen something from NISOLA. Employee privacy is not handled clearly in the Employment Act. We have to rely on the Data Protection Act instead. You can see they always emerge. And that's why some of these particular acts, they're always amended from time to time. However, we may not really have to wait until that is done. And therefore, as professionals, the opportunity that we have is also to benchmark and see what are the others doing and to build a robust systems and also to protect each other and protect our employees going forward. I think that's something which is very important in terms of the employee privacy. And this actually is becoming a thorny issue at the workplace nowadays. I think there's also something to do with statutory deductions too. I think we were just talking about as we were perhaps approaching the end of the open mic conversation. What are some of the areas that we think we see every day, and there are challenges, but they have not been addressed in the Employment Act, and yet they are critical. They have not been. They are not still there because they're emerging. Like for instance, from Farajo, you realize what she said about safeguarding. That's an emerging area which perhaps is not there. The word which is actually used there is actually more about maybe sexual harassment. Yeah, I think there's someone who wants to say something.
Hi, Paul.
Hello. Yes, Lucy. Go for it, Lucy.
Lucy.
Yes, and you can tell us what.
One of the areas that I find it's not addressed is unpaid leave. I know I have a case where there's an employee who approached me. We have contract employees and we have PNP employees, and majority are contract employees. And he wants to pursue PhD for 3 years. He is on a 3-year contract period. 1 year is already over. And he wants to take unpaid leave. Our HR policy is silent on whether the leave can be taken by PNP or contract. And it also stipulates that as long as you've worked for an organization for 1 year, you are entitled to unpaid leave. And also it talks about if you're proceeding for unpaid leave for 3 months, beyond 3 months, it has to go through the board approval. So I'm in a scenario, I'm stuck. For me, that's a place that is not addressed. And most employees are undertaking unpaid leave because they are getting so many scholarships in government. In fact, for the employee as a scholarship, you want to pursue a PhD in a country within Africa. So that's one of the areas that I feel it's not addressed in the Employment Act.
Yeah, so you can see already issues to do with unpaid leave. And I think increasingly that's becoming prominent, that employees are looking for opportunities to go back to school, to advance their knowledge and also to upskill. And of course, when we look at the Act, it's a gray area. And therefore, I think what HR professionals are doing more is to seek guidance from their boards and also to look at what are the other organizations doing in terms of the best practices. And just to note also there's also in some organization, there's also issues to do with career breaks. Organizations, especially employees, seeking for an opportunity to go and perhaps doing caregiving or maybe just taking a break, maybe for a year or two. And sometimes they'll be like, can I come back? Can I come and work after this? And after how long? So that's another gray area, which is okay, not in the Act. But in case you look at quite a number of, especially with the NGOs, they actually have policies. So mostly what my advice is to share with other HR professionals, what are you doing in your organizations? For those who actually who are in the NGO sector, normally there's a forum that people get registered for those who are, and there people actually share a lot of policies, information, and even have access maybe to the procedures. What are you doing in case, for instance, there is a gray area? So my advice is for HR professionals to reach out to each other and look at what are you doing? Because the answers normally are in the room. Like you find that most of the answers on some of the areas which are gray are in the room. Look out for these particular examples and the processes and the policies, and they'll be shared going forward. I think, Lucy, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, let's go ahead. 2 or 3 more on some of the gray areas. I think we've talked about unpaid leave, career breaks, which are not addressed. And I think there's something that
Faraj has talked about constructive dismissal.
Yes,
I think this is an area that is affecting even most HR professionals, and especially where they have in most cases, I know most of the HR, I know some of us are here. We are puppet HRs. And by puppet HRs, I mean that we are the people that are given directions by your boss just to, and most of the time we do secretarial duties instead of being there and being firm to just ensure that the law is followed to the letter. So someone is found guilty, you don't give them a hearing, your boss tells them you to dismiss them, and in most cases we find ourselves in lawsuits because we are following what our bosses are telling us and not what should be done. So as much as the boss is directing that this person stole, it's true they stole, but should we give them that hearing? So for the HR in the room, I think we should really stick to the Employment Act and then make sure that even when you get to an organization, being the first HR, make sure that the first thing you look at, you're looking at the gaps, you're doing an audit to understand the gaps in that organization. If there are no policies, look at the policies in the organization. If there are no policies, start developing policies that are compliant to the Employment Act, so that now we can be able to create an environment where employees feel valued, employees feel that they are fairly represented, and even if there's anything and they are dismissed, they feel that the hearing was fair. I can see Joram has a question as well.
Okay, good evening. This is Joram, the Senior HR Officer at Tradewinds Logistics and Aviation. So my question, before I even ask a question, I want to affirm that the whole aspect of the Employment Act, or much of it is more of gray area, considering we refer to 2007 Employment Act. And also considering we did embrace the 2010 Constitution, thereby the Employment Act was not, we didn't embody there. Now, therefore, we refer to 2007 in relation to International Labour Organization standards. So that's one of the gray area. That's why you find a lot of issues are always actually absent in terms of employee that can foster the employee experience at the workplace. For my question, so personally, I have a staff who exited, and for this staff, I had a loan with a SACCO. And the employee had signed a contract with the SACCO to have the deduction made from the employer side. So from the payslip, just as normal deductions, like the statutory deduction, we were doing the deductions direct to the SACCO. So this staff resigned and exited before completing the loan. And upon him exiting, so we have the final dues. So we held the final dues. Now we are personally, I'm torn. Should the final dues be paid to the employee or to the SACCO? Considering there is a signed agreement in when he was requesting a loan, in case this staff leave, all remaining should be paid actually to make sure that the loan is fully covered. But also considering the employee has gone ahead and sued the company in reference to withholding the funds. And at the same time, he signed the contract for the employer to have the loan cleared. So that's also a gap. And also I want to, there is also a gap whereby when an employee works in may it be a holiday, maybe for example, a holiday, should the employee, is it, I see a gap whereby employer will choose to pay the employee with a 1 day or with a 1 day instead of 2 days or 200% compensation in reference to prorated daily wage. So there is also that gap. So at what point as the HR do you come up with a balance to make sure, regardless of the rigidity of the employer, to make sure that he wants to compensate a day to a day? Well, you know, for the employees lately, they are more knowledgeable in terms of employee laws. So they will be there asking, hey, we should be given 2 days if we have to work during Easter. Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, open conversation, please. Let's free to help Joram unpack that, because also we have definitely examples and stories to share from our workplaces. Feel free to respond. I think Jay, you had touched on the issue about the holiday before. I think Joram had joined.
Now, what we need to understand is that the Employment Act gives a minimum, and as an organization, the Employment Act sets the standards. So as an organization, we are here now as the HR people, to bring in good practices. So the good practices can be done when drawing a policy. For example, the Employment Act talks about 21 days leave, but there are organizations that will give 30 days leave or even 24 days leave. The Employment Act talks about people working on overtime. When you work on a Saturday or a normal day, when you work on Monday to Saturday, it's normally, because Saturday is a working day. So when you work from Monday to Saturday, you work overtime during this day, you should be paid 1.5 of the normal rate, hourly rate. That is something that is in the Employment Act. And then the other thing is that now when an employee works on Sunday or a public holiday, they should be paid twice, 2 times their normal pay. So now what happens is that we'll find that there are organizations, I know several organizations, even big organizations, where now when you work on a holiday, they compensate you with an off day. Some will give you 2 days, some will give you 1 day. Now, all these now, the HR should be the person that should come in and guide the organization that this is what the Employment Act says. But if we don't want to pay in terms of monetary, then we should be able to give this person 1 day. So I've seen people that accumulate their overtime hours until it comes to a full day, and then they can proceed on off. That is an agreement between the employer and the employee, but it's documented in the policy. So Joram, anything related to what overtime and payment, it should be documented in the policy. For those organizations that are giving an off day for instead of the 2 days, 2 times rate, they should as well have that documented in the policy, so that in case where this is not documented, an employee can sue the company, and as the HR person, you're the person that will be going to stand in the dock. So make sure that you are the person that is there to guide the company. In most cases, employers, we employers, what we want is that we want our work to be done regardless. So sometimes they might not. And another thing is that most people feel that they're, by them being employed, they are being done a favor. You are not being done a favor. So what you need to do, you need to understand is that you are selling your services to that employer, and the employer is paying you this for the services that you provide in that organization. So make it very clear that you have rights as an employee, and the employer also has rights. So having everything documented is the best way to go, so that in case anything comes up where an employer went against, then it means you are covered. And also make sure that in case there's any communication about people getting to work during holiday but don't get paid, something that is against the policy as well, make sure you document this by doing emails. So make sure that you communicate through email, so that now when the employer responds to that email, you are covered in case there's a suit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just conscious of the time. I think we are now getting to 8:17. Today, it was a platform for us to share knowledge, to ask questions, to make responses, to share our stories and our view, for us even to look at some of the areas sometimes which actually challenges. And of course, when challenges are there, one of the things that you needed to do quickly is to look around at the HR professionals. And therefore, the most important thing is always to come for this particular platform. Look at some of the platform perhaps which are addressing certain key areas. And there are so many forums for human resource professionals and even for managers, for people even to come and actually exchange their views. It was also an opportunity for us even to look at some of the gray areas. And this is actually a build-up, especially to the conference, which is actually coming in Naivasha from the 4th to the 6th of June, where we're going to have some top judges. We are going to have seasoned HR leaders. We are going to have some legal minds who will actually come to unpack issues to do on the Employment Act and also the issues of the Employment Relations Act. And there are certain things, actually, of course, which do not need to go to the courts. Actually, they'll be talking about that. They'll be talking about the importance of the alternative justice system, and in particular, the area about embedding mediation at the workplace. And one of the areas which has been recommended is to have as many people as possible going for training on mediation, to be certified mediators, and to actually to build peace, and also to ensure that things do not take a lot of time, and they don't even have to be dragged to court. They can actually be sorted out even at the workplace. And the more professionals actually who are trained on mediation, the better actually for the workplace. There's a lot of money and time actually which is wasted by people saying, I'll see you in court, and actually you can take a long time there. But the more people actually are trained on mediation and alternative justice system, the better. And actually Jay has said the employment actually set the minimum in terms of what needs to be done and regulated at the workplace. But when it comes actually to the best practices, therefore, we have an opportunity as professionals to develop the best practices. We have actually an opportunity to be enablers. We have an opportunity actually to drive ethical leadership in our organization. We have an opportunity also actually even to drive ethical practices in our organization, to be empathetic and also to be compassionate. And there are certain things which will not even be there perhaps in the law, because the law will never have an opportunity to have everything being addressed there. So for us as professionals, we have many forums for us even to check. And that's why we need to check on each other, to have critical friends, to have mentors, to have coaches, so that actually we can actually check on each other. So the essence and the purpose of Conversation with Esther is to provide this particular platform for people to come and share their stories and their views, and also to give an opportunity for people to know that there's this particular conference which is happening somewhere there. Already, we actually been informed that there is actually a team building event, and I'm sure there'll be a little bit of an echo to exactly what time will this one be starting. Are we going to have charges during that particular time? This is an opportunity also for networking, to have some of those particular answers being cleared, to have some of those particular areas being explored. So thank you so much on behalf of Conversation with Esther. I want to return this one back to Jay, who is the host today. Over to you, Jay.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much to everyone that has made this event a success. About Saturday, we have a team building and networking event. Paul and myself will be on site. Esther Katiba will be on site as well. So I'll be planning this. The entry is absolutely free. Absolutely free. I think I can share the poster in that. I can share the poster in the chat section now. Just a minute. So the entry is free, and which is from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. 11 p.m. So don't miss out on this. Let's come. Let's network. Let's engage. Let's ask questions. There'll be a group of mentors. There'll be a group of employers there. So feel free to be part of this. Can you see it? I can see someone is talking about sharing it on the screen. Maybe let me just share it again. I think you can see it now here. We can all see it. Join us for a team building event, networking event. So Nairobi Children's Park is just at the junction of Uhuru Highway and University Way. Hiyo barabara ya kwanza kupanda ukienda just next to Kim. For those who know Kim, headquarters is there. So just next to Kim, we have that Nairobi Children's Park. So you carry us water, carry snacks, and see you on Saturday. So thank you so much. Without much ado, I would like to ask for a volunteer to close for us with a word of prayer, and then we can call it a night. Any volunteer who wants to pray for us?
I can pray.
Thank you so much, Carol.
I'm Caroline Odandi from HR Council of Governors. Let's pray. Lord, we are grateful for every opportunity you give us to strengthen HR and to strengthen our great profession. We continue to pray that you help us to extend our tent, help us to extend our territories, and help us to impact our generation. Thank you for this opportunity for the fireside chat. We pray that you will also guide and the activities ahead in the week and the weekend and even in June, we commit them to you, that may they go as planned for your glory and for the blessing of our profession. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Good night, everyone, and see you. We have a session on Thursday as well with JCVs, Thursday with JCVs as well, and we can finalize this, close the week on Saturday together. So see you guys, and have a blessed night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.